Hi guys. Sorry, for some reason I couldn't it kept like pending when I was going into the OBS thing to start streaming, and so it like wouldn't let me in, and then like every time I would get in I could comment, but like it still wouldn't load my video, so like internet was acting up quite a bit. And Archer says, I'm wondering if power issues in Ukraine are affecting the internet. Hi Lauren. Yeah, they are, but not in the way that you expect. So, for instance, I don't have a blackout right now. Fingers crossed. You will know that there is a blackout if this yellow light is not on. But if it's on, then I have power. And so I have an EcoFlow, right? An EcoFlow is like this massive power bank, and it's very heavy. It's 24 kilograms, but also it's not like I have an extension cord to plug in all of my, like a huge extension cord that I can plug into the EcoFlow and have all of the things that I need plugged in. So if I'm doing a live, I will have my EcoFlow usually here. So if I have a blackout, so like I can charge my computer and my devices and stuff like that. But also my Wi-Fi router only works if it's plugged into the EcoFlow when there is a blackout. And obviously I don't have Wi-Fi if it's not plugged in. So I have to bring the EcoFlow to the Wi-Fi, and then I can't charge my computer. So I have to like be on top of charging all of my devices and all this stuff. Basically, it has to travel around my apartment. And it doesn't have wheels, and that thing is heavy. But I messaged my like apartment owner today, and I was like, hey, what can I do? What can I do to have internet at all times? And basically she showed me this like device that I can get that powers the router. It's IPS router UPS 30 power bank. Oh, thank you, DW. And it's roughly $80. And I think I'm going to have to shell that out because, and it also needs a cable and stuff, because that way I don't have to move the EcoFlow to my cables every time that I need to use the internet when there is a power outage. It's just going to power it itself. Oh, come on. See, this one device wasn't plugged in, so it's going to keep going off, and I need to plug it in because it's a lamp that I can carry around with me. And I love this lamp because it charges and I can bring it random places. Anyways, 1 second. 1 sec. Boom. There we have it. Let there be light. Okay. Thank you, Truthful. So, Yulia, how are you? I'm doing okay today because I had electricity most of the day. And that was nice. Also, a plant store in my neighborhood had like basically, I want to say like 30 to 40% off for plants because most of their plants need light. It's a very dark shop, so they have like plant grow lights. And because of the recent power outages, they don't have like any light. It's kind of like in a corner in a dark space. And so they were like, we don't want to kill our plants. Please buy them. So that was nice. Plants make me happy. Okay, let me say all the hellos to everyone. Okay, so hi, Ozzy. Thank you for putting up all the links. There is a Patreon link, Buy Me a Coffee link, Discord link. Hi, Jack the Rocky. Hi, Diane. Hi, Niels. Hi, Carolyn. Hi, Archer. I mean, I already said hi. Hi, Mark. Hi, Arch. T4L0N. Arch. We'll go with Arch. Hi, John. Hi, Nikki. Hi, Praxis. Hi, Andreas. Hi, Maria. Hi, Leathercat. Hi, Frank. Hi, Brian. Hello from the UK. Hi, Lynn. And also hello, everyone on TikTok. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm at trying to figure out power places, power for my internet and stuff like that. Hi, LJ, good to see you. And also thank you so much, iBag, for becoming a new member of the YouTube channel. With the power situation, do you still have a solid water supply? So yes. Well, the situation in my building is better than in most buildings, I guess. The elevator still works when there is a power outage. So does the light in the hallways, and so do the water pumps. So I do have that. We are on the same line as a local hospital. So we're on the same line as a local hospital. So like my building doesn't lose power, but the freight elevator does because it's just unnecessary. And also, all the apartments do. This building used to never lose power because it's on the same line as the hospital, and then the neighboring buildings were like, WTF, and they complained, and so they basically let us keep the elevator and let us keep like the water pumps, but they turned us off, like they turned the apartments off. So yeah, it was fun. Also, you guys, I bought lunch. So update on the security guard. Looks like he's staying at his job because he's been at the post for 2 days now. He never gave me his card number, but I came to him today and I was like, listen, I have $175 worth of lunches and I have to buy them for you because I've been entrusted with this money and they're going to you whether you want it or not. So I ordered him lunch today in the amount of like, I think 800 hryvnias is like, what, $20? So we are down to 155. And oh, thank you, Frank. Thank you for becoming a new member as well on YouTube. So I'm going to be buying him lunches daily now until the fund runs out. Where are you originally from in Ukraine? I'm from Lviv, the west of Ukraine. So yeah, but I'm very happy that he's staying at his job. He's very good at his job, and yeah. You know, did he dig it? Well, yeah, it's funny. He like so they text me when like there is a delivery or something, and it's like so funny. He usually texts me like these so these messages are you obviously won't see them. They're also mirrored, but this says like, I let the delivery up, like then the delivery is going up. And then this one says, Yulia, thank you. It got here. And I'm like, cool. So yeah, because I just called him and I was like, look, I ordered a delivery to my apartment, but instead of letting them up, like keep it because it's for you and I'm not home and I ordered it for you. I just like didn't know how to, like there is no field that says, hey, please leave it at the security booth downstairs. So yeah. Does your building have a doorman or just security? So we don't have doormen in Ukraine. It's a security booth, and technically, like they can accept your packages, but like we don't do that in Ukraine. Like our packages don't necessarily come to our address. So like we have a couple of different ways that people get their packages delivered. We have lock boxes in our building where Nova Poshta delivers packages. Then we have like a Nova Poshta location basically near, like there are millions of them. It's like think of a Starbucks. Like Starbucks is everywhere, right? So Nova Poshta is basically as widespread as Starbucks in Ukraine. So you can send something to a Nova Poshta branch, or you can have a courier delivery, which means they will give you like a 4-hour window and they'll bring it to your door, or they can leave it with the security downstairs. But no one really gets packages into like a mail room the way we do in the United States, because here you just have lock boxes downstairs and they just bring it there. So that's that. And also most of the things you can order online and then pay for them upon receipt. At the like Nova Poshta branch, or like you pay for it and that opens the lockbox basically. So yeah, it's a very different system. Thank you, Chad. That's very sweet. Do you feel that Halichina fairly treated people from the east of Ukraine who had to move? I mean, it's a case by case basis, right? Like I think that a lot of cases of like really crappy behavior were illustrated in the media to create tension for sure. But yeah, I think we did. Like there are lots of people who moved to my region from various different places. And I'll tell you that my grandparents and everyone that I know were hosting refugees in their own home for free when the war broke out. And my dad helped a bunch of people find apartments and stuff like that. Halishina is a region that encompasses a bunch of different oblasts in the west of Ukraine, and Lviv is in Halishina, Ternopil is in Halishina. So it's like it's sort of like New England is a region that's comprised of a couple of states. So Halishina is a region that's comprised of a couple of oblasts. But yeah, I do think I do think so. I'm sure there were definitely awful occurrences, because some people are awful. No, doesn't matter whether there is a war or not, but in general, yeah, I think so. And if you're trying to argue that and say that we didn't, then you are basically spreading propaganda and trying to you know, like divide the nation. But in general, yeah, I think so. Like there are lots of people from Donetsk there, from Donetsk Oblast. There are lots of people from Luhansk Oblast. There are lots of people from Zaporizhia. There are lots of people from Dnipro. There are lots of people from Kharkiv. I know a lot of new cafes and restaurants and stuff opened in Lviv that are owned by people that have recently relocated, or like internally displaced persons, I guess. And we don't like discriminate anyone. Yeah, we definitely have like, you are going to have to speak Ukrainian to people in service, just as you have to do that in every region of Ukraine now. No one's like gonna come up to you on the street and yell at you for speaking Russian to your friends or something. But like, yeah, people are gonna look at you. Like we've never had, like, Lviv used to be completely Ukrainian speaking. And I'll say that for me, it's really weird coming to Lviv now, because I hear a lot of Russian language on the streets. And for me, it's like a mind fuck, because I'm just not used to it. And like, my position is that everyone who can speak Ukrainian should speak Ukrainian. And I think that, like, okay, fine, if you want to speak Russian behind closed doors with like your boyfriend or your mom or something, that's okay. You're an adult. But if you're raising children and you're teaching your children Russian as the first language, then like, honestly, I have nothing to say to you, because like, I think you're setting up your kids to being in the Russian info space, which means watching Russian TV shows and listening to Russian music and developing an inferiority complex, because we, like, growing up, had a lot of exposure to that, and we were looking at propaganda that was illustrating Ukrainians as like, you know, these like hillbillies that haven't seen washing machines. So yeah, I think it's incredibly irresponsible to continuously speak Russian to your little children, because you can choose to literally not teach them that and they will never know it. Like, I don't know, in my elevator, I constantly bump into kids with like their nannies and their grandmas and their parents, and they're like, "Zdraste." And I honestly, like, I want to punch their I want to punch their parents in the face, because I'm like, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing it? Like, why? Why would you do that? Like, you are in charge of your kid's future, right? And your kid has an ability to never know this language. And it's not like a discussion of just purely being like, Russian is the invader's language, that's why you shouldn't speak it. Like, no, it's the information that your kids are going to be exposed to. So I personally think that kids should not be taught Russian, and it's their parents' responsibility to understand why. Thank you so much, DW. And I don't know, I like cannot understand the parents that teach their little children, like sponges, you know, that absorb everything, Russian, because they can choose not to, and those kids will never know any of the stupid, like, Moya Prekrasnaya Nyanya and like Papины Dochki and all of these garbage TV shows that were illustrating Ukrainians as hillbillies. Like, there is a TV show, it's called like Father's Daughters, and that TV show has the father in the TV show is like a business owner, a rich business owner, and his secretary is this like woman that acts so inappropriate. She's really loud. She's like she's very tacky, and she's illustrated like a hick. Like, she's supposed to be ridiculous, you know, and she's from Kharkiv. Kharkiv, like a huge city. And so at some point there is an episode where her and her family comes to visit her at some point, and they are illustrated and presented from Kharkiv, from a big city, from like a megapolis, right, in Ukraine. And they're illustrated as people who have never seen a washing machine, and they're even like more hickish than she is, and they're portrayed as these like super tacky, just like rednecks that don't know anything, and like, oh my god, they came to Moscow or like St. Petersburg. And this is the type of shit that like parents are exposing their kids to when they're choosing to teach them Russian, because inevitably they're going to find Russian content on the internet, and they're going to be watching Russian bloggers, especially if that's like the language they speak at home. So that's their first language, right? And they're just going to be watching this stuff, and they're going to be listening to the Russian perspective and stuff. And it's just like, I think it's so irresponsible and it's so gross. And it's like, I understand the people that grew up in the regions where they barely ever heard Ukrainian and it's hard for them to speak it and stuff. But like, honestly, for the sake of your kids, fucking teach yourself. So I don't know. Well, I'm not necessarily like, I'm not aiming. So, this discussion started from a comment on TikTok, right? And I think like the person might be taking it a little bit too directed, but I don't like, I'm not saying like, I'm not like, this is not to you particularly. Like, I'm not saying you do this. I don't want you to think that I'm like here trying to tell you that because you're from Kharkiv and I assume you speak Russian, like this is what you do. This was more of just like, in general, you asked about the language question, and I sort of like, and I sort of explained all of my, you know, thoughts. So yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at with that. And I really like, it really pisses me off when I see kids in the elevator like speaking Russian. It pisses me off so much. But yeah, that's sort of where I'm at. I think no one's discriminating anyone. I don't think you're trying to attack me. I thought that it came off to you like I was trying to attack you, but I wasn't. I was just like sort of talking in general about all the, you know, like all the people. But yeah, but yeah, that's kind of where I stand on that. I think that in Lviv, no one's like discriminating anyone based on language. Never did and doesn't now. And I think that everyone who comes to Lviv is being treated fairly. But to the language question, you know, it's sort of like, I hear people say things like, oh, but it's hard for me to speak Ukrainian. I can't express myself in Ukrainian. Like, I get it, because I can explain myself in English better than I can explain myself in Ukrainian. But that's why I'm working on my Ukrainian to be able to explain myself just as well. And I know a ton of foreigners who came here, I don't know, like 2 years ago, 4 years ago, 7 years ago, and they speak Ukrainian fluently. I mean, like English people, Australian people, Japanese people, you know, I don't know, like Turkish people, and they speak Ukrainian literally fluently. Like, I met a person who learned Ukrainian fluently within a year. And so for me, it's like, you know what? Shove your excuses up your ass. Anyways, wait, you live in Ukraine? Yes, I do. I'm in Kyiv, Ukraine, as we speak. Also, hi Jason, hi Gord, hi Casanova. Oh, I haven't seen you in a while. Yaroslav Tretyakov, hello, and her surname sounds way too stereotypical as well. Whose surname? I don't even know what we're talking about. Whose surname? Did I miss something? Oh, you mean like from Papina Dochki, yeah. It took me about 3 years to learn Orc. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's like Ukrainian is different from Russian. And it's kind of like, people assume that if you know Russian, you're going to have such an easy time learning Ukrainian, but that's so not true because they're so different. Why are you Ukraine? Well, I'm not a country, so I can't, you know, I'm not Ukraine. I'm not a country. I'm not an inanimate object. I'm a person. I'm not Ukraine. I'm Yulia. I'm a human, but thanks for asking. Yeah, Tamara's last name. I don't remember it. Like, I wasn't a fan of like, so I never really watched like Russian TV shows because I watched English stuff. The second that I basically could, from like childhood basically. And that's kind of that. He probably is asking, why do you live in Ukraine? Yeah, but it's just like, see, anytime someone asks a question like that, it's aimed, right? It's like targeted, because it's because like, why do you care? Like, why do you care? Why do you live in Ukraine? Why do you live wherever you live? You know, like what kind of a question is that? These questions are never asked with in good faith. They're always asked in bad faith. How do I am Slava? Hi there, I speak Bulgarian and Orc and find Ukrainian a fine amalgamation of everything familiar. Yeah, I recently, so the security guard that was almost fired, he is Belarusian, and sometimes he speaks Belarusian on the phone. And it's so similar. It's so interesting because there are so many similarities. There are some words that I don't necessarily like, that I don't understand immediately, but then like upon sort of processing it, I can get it. So it's interesting because I would say that Ukrainian and Belarusian are much more similar than like Ukrainian and Russian. Well, actually, and I've said this so many times, so I'm sorry if you have to hear it for like the 100th time, but like factually, Ukrainian and Russian have 62% syntaxical similarity. But for instance, as compared to Spanish and Italian, which have 82% syntaxical similarity, and German and Dutch, which have 80% syntaxical similarity, or maybe it's Spanish and Italian that are at 80 and Dutch and German at 82. So you can imagine that it's really not that much that similar, because if you think about like Spanish and Italian, they're not that similar, but it's 82% syntaxical similarity, while Ukrainian and Russian only have 62. It's just a lot of Ukrainians use a lot of Russian words because we've been exposed to it for so long that you think it's more similar than it is. But if you actually speak like real Ukrainian without mixing in like Russian words and surjik, then it's very different. In fact, there are lots of videos on the internet of like little kids who have never learned Russian, and their parents are like reading them Russian words, and they're like, "What do you think this is?" And they don't know. Like they have no idea. Where did I study? Where did you go to school in the US? In New York. I've lived in New York for 13 years. I recently moved back to Kyiv moved back to Ukraine. I'm from Lviv. And I moved to Kyiv, I think like 3 months ago, and to Ukraine in January 1st, actually. Dan Smith, hello. There are 3, maybe 4 real world languages I want to learn, and 3 fictional languages: Cheyenne, Irish, Ukrainian, and Norse. Oh, that's interesting. Well, so Irish, you mean Gaelic, right? Like, so it's actually, just so you know, Gaelic is pronounced as Gaelag. I mean, literally, an Irish person that I know very well doesn't say Gaelic. They say I speak Gaelag. And I find it so funny because that sounds very funny. What do you mean? Andrew, I see an Irish flag. But written Dutch is really funny. Spoken Dutch is awful. Okay, well, we're starting like a shitting in languages parade, and like there is one rule to this: you can only shit on a language if it's your language. Well, interesting, because like Ukrish. Ukrish is so funny. Oh my gosh, Ukrish is the funny. Uk-Irish. Uk-Irish is even funnier. Well, I mean, this person is Irish, no Ukrainian, but they know the alphabet. They know how to say Yewleea, which is kind of funny. But they always say Gaelag. Actually, I have a note here which I can't read. Actually, wait, there are Irish people here. So if you speak Gaelic, I'm going to attempt to read this to you. I don't know how to read it because honestly, it's difficult. But it's supposed to be hello, I like sausages. And it's diaduit, something ma home espera something. How does one say hi, I like sausages because I can show you what it looks like, but I can't read it like for the life of me. See, it's difficult. It's like one of the more you know, like how we all complain about French because like like it says one thing on paper and then it's just like it's 55 letters and then it's just like so here like, you know, I know that like maith is ma, not maith, but that's about as far as I can go. So, you know, anyways, I'm Irish, Scottish, and Cheyenne by blood, and there is a lot of Norwegian and Ukrainian people in Western Washington State where I live. Oh, that's cool. When you say hi, I like sausages. It's pronounced diadich. Oh, cool. Diadich is really funny. I would never, ever, ever have like guessed that. That's like, I don't know how diadut or duit becomes diadich. That makes literally zero sense to me. And there is how does one say sausages in Gaelic? It's easy to speak Dutch. Is it? Is it? Is it? Is it? Sounds like good. Yeah, okay. You know, that whole sentence was read out to me like really fast. And я не вимерю, це я в Києві. Oh, oh wow, привіт, Настя. Ishma, Yom, Lyom, Ishpini. Yeah, this will never happen for me. I'm sorry. I think like I have a pretty decent like understanding of languages and I'm like I'm skilled to learn different languages. Gaelic is not one. Gaelic is not one. Okay, well, I mean, I'll work on it. This sentence was read to me out loud and I like very fast and I was just like, yeah, no, I don't know what to do with that at all. Ispini with a fada on the first I is sausages in Irish. Okay, cool. A lot of you guys for some reason know Irish. Why are you acting like you're looking? Yeah, no, I'm not. See, I'm not looking for anything. I'm reading a note that was written down as an example of writing in Gaelic. So you know what? I actually don't like sausages, just so you know. I can't seem to do any language with success, so you're good. Fada is an accent dash, by the way. Okay, well, I mean, I think this goes beyond my language skills, but hey, maybe one day. I'm English and still trying to learn how to speak it. How is the summer there? Really, really hot. It's supposed to be a high of like 80 something tomorrow. No, I'm not. You know what, guys? We're gonna start on the news because this is going in directions I don't like it to be going. Okay, well, so our first. Oh my gosh. Also, oh, that's why. I was like, why does my head hurt so much? And that's because I have this thing I have this thing also attached to a oh, there we have it. Okay, cool. I was like, my head hurts so much. I was wearing this all day. News, yes, please. Okay, cool. Russia spent millions of euros on propaganda in Europe through the state legal defense fund Pravfond, which operates in 48 countries, according to internal documents obtained by The Guardian. Pravfond's activities include the fund financed propaganda websites targeting Europeans, spending hundreds of thousands of euros to combat Russophobia and promote the protection of the Russian language in Europe. Legal support. Pravfond paid for legal services for Russian arms dealer Viktor Baut and murderer Vadim Krasikov. Management. The organization's management includes former Russian intelligence agents. Vladimir Pozdorovkin, an agent of the Foreign Intelligence Service, FSB, oversees Pravfond's activities in Northern Europe and the Baltic states. Anatoly Sorokin, an agent of the SSR, is the curator for the Middle East, Moldova, and Transnistria. Psychological warfare. Sergei Pentileev, head of the Institute of the Russian Diaspora and listed as the executor of the Pravfond project in official documents, has been sanctioned by EU countries for his work with the Russian military intelligence unit specializing in psychological warfare operations. So Pravfond means legal fund, right? And they're acting like they're presenting themselves to be like a legal organization that helps Russians with their rights. And like basically helps like Russian immigrants or like whatever refugees with their like everyday things and, you know, getting legal support and like whatnot. But in reality, it's just it's a propaganda shop, and them being a legal organization is a front. And they operate in 48 different countries, and all of their heads, like all of their CEOs and whatever, all of their executive branch are former FSB agents or current FSB agents. Go figure. Western governments are scrambling to respond to Russia's hybrid warfare. Of course they are, which uses saboteurs and recruits to target military and civilian sites across Europe, reports the Financial Times. The goal of these attacks, often directed by the Russian military intelligence agency GRU, is to divide Ukraine's allies, disrupt military supplies, and test the West's resolve. Russia is trying to show its power, confuse our societies, sow fear, and make our lives more difficult. This is also a test of our reaction, because if we do not respond, the number of attacks will increase, said Latvian President Edgars Rinkēvičs. He mentioned that NATO allies are trying to figure out how to respond without invoking the military alliance's collective defense provision. We are not going to fire missiles at Russia over a minor incident, he added. This issue has become a top priority for Ukraine's Western allies after recent incidents, including the alleged arson of a warehouse in Great Britain linked to Ukraine. Thank you, Max. Sabotage of American military bases in Germany, attempts to disable the European railway signal network, and jamming of civil aviation navigation systems in the Baltic states. Microsoft also warned that Russia is spreading malicious disinformation about the Olympic Games in Paris. So that brings us to this. Russia has launched a massive disinformation campaign to smear France at the upcoming Olympics in Paris, according to Microsoft. The Russian Federation reportedly created fake news sites and even a full-length documentary to attack the International Olympic Committee and suggest that the Summer Games will be marred with violence. The most disturbing disinformation spread by pro-Russian actors involved impersonating militant organizations and fabricating threats to the games amid the conflict between Israel and Hamas, Microsoft said in a statement. Microsoft identified two Russian-backed entities, Storm 1679 and Storm 1099, also known as Doppelganger, as the perpetrators of these disinformation campaigns. The campaign intensified late last year after the IOC decided to allow Russian athletes to compete in the games under a neutral flag. And this is what I was saying, like Russians shouldn't be permitted to compete at international events. For what? Like for what? Russians are literally destroying European cities from within with propaganda, sowing divide in European societies, using the Olympics to create more divide, installing politicians, doing all of these things, and we're still saying sports is outside of politics? How is it outside of politics when Russian athletes have to say that they're neutral, yet if you go in there to participate and just have a white flag instead of a Russian flag, but then you go on their social media and you see that they're not neutral, people start following them because they're exposed to more audience. Like for instance, if you're a tennis fan and you didn't know there was this like Russian tennis player, right? And you liked how they performed, you go and follow them on Instagram. And then on their Instagram, they have subtle and not subtle support for Russia. And so you start getting influenced by it because now you like this tennis player and this tennis player is a celebrity that you were interested in. Do you see what I'm saying? It's like there's so much damage in letting Russian people compete and giving them a spotlight and like literally letting them into the world. This is not the time to let them into the world. It's like, imagine like Nazi soldiers and Nazis were allowed to compete in the Olympic Games. Disgusting. Also, they've been information war against us over 10 years, so it's good they now finally realize that, no, this information. So, Northerner, like if you go to my community tab on YouTube, there is a video there is a video interview of former FSB agent. He was a defector from the Soviet Union in the 1970s, and he explains exactly how Russian propaganda is meant to work, and he talks about the fact that it's not something meant to be implemented over a decade or two. It's something meant to be implemented over the next 50 years, and he's right, because that's exactly what happened. And he explains exactly how he was trained at the FSB to like sow divide and how to like destroy the West. And it's this, the Cold War never ended. So this disinformation and these sort of Russian meddling started way, way before this. It started during the Cold War and it never ended. It's just Russia let the West believe that it did, but it never did. It just continued, just a lot more covertly. And that's kind of what it is. Sorry, let me try and like put my hair in some sort of a situation that works for me. And I can't do that because I don't have like a mirror, whatever. Let's do that. That should work for now. There was also a message from someone new. Oh, DMO. This is interesting. Thank you. I'm so curious. What does the average person in Moscow here understand about what's going on in Ukraine? Thank you. So hi Shay. Oh my gosh, good to see you. And hi Johnson. So they don't necessarily, what do you mean an average person in Moscow? Like the thing is, Moscow is a big city and Moscow is where people use VPN. Moscow is where if they wanted to know information, they very well could. People figure out VPN to use Instagram. People figure out VPN to use TikTok and YouTube and all of this stuff. So they just don't want to support Ukraine. They have all of the information. Like Russia did not ban the internet. They just banned specific apps from being displayed in their country. But if you use VPN, you can still use them. All of the Russians use Instagram. They still use TikTok. They still use YouTube. So they have all of the access to all of the information. They just, it's not because they don't get the information that they support Russia. It's because they are, the imperialism and the superiority complex is ingrained in them. So yeah. German politicians call on Rheinmetall to speed up maintenance of equipment transferred to Ukraine. A few months ago, Rheinmetall announced that it would open a maintenance center for Marder infantry fighting vehicles in Lviv. However, the plant has not yet started work, and the tanks have to be transported to countries such as Lithuania for repairs. 3 MPs write that they're looking forward to this facility. They have high hopes for it. Michael, so you can't really ban VPN because there are way too many different VPNs. But also, like I see Russians on Instagram all the time. Russians in Moscow, Russians in St. Petersburg. I get like recommended Russians in St. Petersburg on freaking TikTok, and I have to keep pressing not interested and blocking them. Anything that has Russian language in it, I just block it and press not interested because I don't want it to come up on my feed. But yeah, they have access to information. Aw, it's very sweet. Thank you, Shay. Chinese bankers have begun to block the transit of goods to Russia, complicating life for Russian importers. To accept goods through third countries, Chinese banks now require confirmation that the goods will be delivered to those countries and not to Russia, reports the Moscow Times. Yeah, China really doesn't want. China really does not want to get sanctioned by the U.S. because, as I said many times earlier, it's the U.S. that's China's largest China's largest profits, China's largest consumers, I guess. So it's like losing Russia versus losing the Western world. The Western world the Western world wins. The Western world wins. Oh my God. Probably most have VPNs, I guess. Yeah, in cities like St. Petersburg and Moscow, most people have VPNs. Like people who work, like people who have smartphones, most have VPNs. People who have computers, most have VPNs. The only people that really don't have access to any of this stuff are like old people in villages, because like they live in dirt poverty, and like most of them don't have roads and stuff like that. And like they get their news from the TV, and that's like the majority of the population of like small towns. So yeah, they don't know anything that's happening in Ukraine really. Like they know that Russians are killing Ukrainians, and they support, like they think Ukrainians are Nazis and they want to kill them. So it's not like, they think that it's not like they think that like Russia is not doing the atrocities that Russia is doing. Like no, they know that Russia is doing that. They support it. What they don't know is, like, for instance, it's like what they don't know is for instance like Russian fleet sinking, so they don't get any bad news and they don't get the real picture. But yeah, oh, go kill Ukrainian Nazis is exactly what they want. Hi, where can I buy Ukrainian made goods? Great question. So you can go to a website called Spend with Ukraine, and they have a lot of really cool Ukrainian clothing brands. They have Ukrainian tech. They have like sections, different sections. So you can like find Ukrainian made apps. Like if you didn't know, Grammarly is Ukrainian. You can find yeah, it's a great website. It's a great resource. It's called Spend with Ukraine. The Russians attacked Dnipro with missiles. The air defense forces shot down 2 of them, but due to falling debris, about 15 cars were damaged. A fire broke out, windows were broken in private houses. High-rise buildings and a hospital and local people were injured. Among the victims are children, a 1-month-old boy and a 17-year-old teenager, a 68-year-old man, and 3 women, aged 32, 36, and 56, were injured. Also in the evening, the Russians attacked Nikopol with kamikaze drones, but the people were unharmed. So they also completely destroyed Kharkiv's power grid at this point, and Kharkiv cannot supply its own electricity at all, like zero. And so for that, the rest of Ukraine's grid has to compensate for it, and we're already overloaded. So for instance, yesterday, our power outages were so bad that I did not have electricity. So one of the reasons why I didn't go live yesterday is because I had to work all day, and it was very difficult because it was like super, super hot in here because I couldn't open the window, because when I would open the window, there is the generator, the huge house-sized generator outside of my window, and it would just go drrrr, and like when you have to work all day in front of a computer, like you need to touch grass because you're just like, oh my God, this is like a woodpecker in my head. And so my light was off from noon to 9 p.m. Then it turned on at 9 and turned off at 10:40. So like I had electricity for like an hour and 40 minutes. And then it went back off and turned back on at like 7:40 in the morning. And I've had it most of the day today. And I was home most of the day. So that was like, and then I did not have, I don't know if there were any electricity turnoffs today because I was only not home for like 2 hours of the day. So unless it was there at that point, then I don't know. I don't think there were any. So today was a good day. But yesterday and the day before that and the day before that, I basically had 4 hours of electricity cumulatively during the day. And that was awful. I mean, like that was terrible. I was sweating. It was like really loud because of the generator. Also, apparently, our neighbors went to like speak to the supermarket across the yard from us, and they were like, listen, we know that you're like a fish oriented supermarket, so you can't like not have the generator working overnight, but like it's impossible to sleep, like it's so loud. And also it's a gas generator, so it's like a lot of like it uses gas, so it's like it like fumes and stuff. And so they pledged basically to buy a more modern generator and move it like deeper into the yard, so it's further from our building. And apparently those changes will be implemented by July 15th, which is like a month and a half from now. But like still better late than never. So yeah, so yeah. But it's very nice that they like opened dialogue and listened to us and stuff, and that they're gonna spend money on buying like a much more modern generator that can do something better. So yeah, so that's good news. I cannot wait to not hear the all night, because that is impossible. I feel like that noise lives in my head now. Yeah, so they're also going to do like foam boards. They're going to do everything they can to sort of make it less loud. Are you in Ukraine? Yes, I'm in Kyiv. Thank you, Suzanne, and thank you, Ozzy. Also, you guys, if so, just a gentle reminder. For those of you who can, for those of you who are able to, it does help me a lot, helps me pay my bills, and helps me, improve the quality of my content and stuff like that. If you subscribe to the TikTok live feature, or become a member of my YouTube channel, or subscribe to Patreon, or buy me a coffee, there's so many different options, and they're all in my link in bio. So if you are able to do that, it really does go a very, very long way and does help me a lot. So if you're able to subscribe to like a monthly fee, which I think on TikTok is like $4.99 or $5.99 a month, and on YouTube starts at $4.99 or $5.99 a month, and there are various different levels of memberships. If you're able to do that, there is also Patreon, and there is also Buy Me a Coffee and PayPal. I really do highly appreciate that, and it does go a very long way and helps me heaps. So if you're able to do that, I would be super, super appreciative. Okay, Scholz emphasizes that allowing Ukraine to use weapons transferred by Germany on the territory of Russia will not lead to any escalation and is necessary for self-defense. Interesting, because Germany was recently just saying that they're not allowing Ukraine to use their weapons on the territory of Russia, and Scholz was at the forefront of that. So it's very, very interesting that suddenly he changed his tune. But I mean, I guess after the US allowed us to use it in the border areas, and the UK and Canada, well, Canada has always allowed us to do with the weapons what we want. It's it's not that uncanny that he would change his tune, but it's just kind of funny, because the way that he says it is as if he always thought that, and as if that's what he was always putting out there, but that's just not true. Italian Foreign Minister Antonio Tajani confirmed that the new package of military aid to Ukraine will include the SAMPT air defense systems, or SAMPT air defense system. The content of the new package, like those previously provided by Italy, will be confidential. Thank you. But it is known that we will send SAMP-T, which is an air defense system. That is the protection that Ukraine itself asked us for. This is not a secret, he noted in the comments to the Radio 1. At the same time, Tajani emphasized that Italy will not send troops to Ukraine, and Italian weapons cannot be used to strike Russia. I mean, yeah, Italy is kind of scared to allow that to happen, and I don't even think it's the Russian influence in Italy at this point. It's just that Italy is not necessarily a very militarily strong country, and they do have a lot of Russians in there, and I think they're just scared. But also, here is something that I want to ask you, Italian. So I speak Italian, right? Io parlo italiano. But like J, the letter J, doesn't exist in the Italian language. And this man's last name is Tajani. How do you read that? Because J is not like a thing in Italian. I've never seen a J anywhere in any word. And so I am so freaking confused, because like in Spanish, it would be Tahani, right? In Italian, like a J is not a thing. So I'm just very confused as to, like, first of all, is his last name like not Italian? It doesn't seem to be. And I wonder how you pronounce that, provided that that letter doesn't really exist in your language. So how do you go about it? Because I don't know how to freaking pronounce his last name. I've been saying Tajani and Tahani, because in Spanish it'd be Tahani with a J. But in Italian, I was about to say that sounds Spanish. Yeah, it does. But like there is no J in Italian, but that's his last name, and it's spelled with a J, which is so weird to me. In the meanwhile, the UN confirmed its participation in the Summit on Peace for Ukraine and Switzerland. Yeah, the UN can go F itself. The UN is honestly like, we know the Red Cross is useless, but at this point it's not useless, it's useful to Russia. There have been so many cases in which both representatives of the UN, Human Rights Watch, and the ICRC have helped Russia kidnap Ukrainians and deliver them to Belarusian filtration camps and Russian filtration camps, that I think that they, honestly, at this point, the UN should be disbanded and the Red Cross should never see a penny from anyone ever again in their life. I recorded a video about Mariana Chicheluk, and she is she was a Ukrainian civilian who became a prisoner of war in Russia for 2 years and underwent torture and interrogation and physical and emotional abuse. And it's just so incredibly, like, disgusting. I can't believe that that was happening, and I cannot believe that these organization, I cannot believe that this organization is is allowed to do that and is not being held accountable. Also, here is a funny thing. Someone is asking me, where in Ukraine can you have a ceiling like that? I'm sorry, I don't mean to be suspicious. What do you mean? You've never seen skylights? Like, these are windows. What do you mean? These are skylights. My grandma has that in her house in Lviv. So do like half the people I know. My friend Masha grew up in an apartment in Zoloty Vorota in Kyiv, and that's her ceiling. No, I have an apartment. And these are normal things in Ukrainian apartments. We have skylights. So do all of the, a lot of the European places, because our buildings are not super tall. They're not normally normally high rises. I mean, this one is, but the roof is slanted. And also, like, I'm sorry, I genuinely don't have to prove to you that I'm in Ukraine. Also, if you were less of like an entitled asshole, you could go to my Instagram and fucking see me in Kyiv, because there are pictures of that. It's not like I just sit here in my room and tell people I'm in Ukraine. Like, I have content, and a lot of it involved. You don't even need to go to my Instagram. You literally can go to my TikTok feed and see my videos that I post in Kyiv. Otherwise, it's not normal things in Ukraine to have this design. You don't have to prove anything. What do you mean it's not normal things in Ukraine to have this design? Dude, I'm sorry. I actually do want to I do want to pay a little bit of attention to this, because this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Skylights, aka windows in your ceiling, are one of the most common things in Ukrainian cities, because our buildings are not tall. Most of our buildings are 5 stories high. So in Lviv, for instance, most of my friends have this type of windows, because that's one of the most normal things. In Lviv also, and in other Ukrainian cities, a lot of buildings are like stacked on one another, and in order for you to get light into your apartment, you have to have these, because sometimes you won't have windows like in the room because they're facing another building. So you will have windows in the ceiling. So yeah, this is a very common design for Ukraine, buddy. I would know, because you probably have never been here, or if you have, it'd been like a month or something, and I grew up here. That means, I've been to apartments of all of my friends when I went to school. I literally grew up in this country. I've been to a fuckload of apartments here. And you know what? This is very normal. For those of you who are on YouTube, he means the skylights. These windows behind me. It says a very uncommon design for Ukraine. Because our, much profoundly knowledgeable about Ukraine comrade over here probably has a degree in architecture and, studied various different architectures worldwide, and definitely knows what is very common for Ukraine and what isn't, because, I haven't been inside of hundreds of Ukrainian apartments, but he apparently has. And apparently you also need to own a house to have a fucking skylight. Your girlfriend lived in Ukraine and she says it's not common. Where in Ukraine did she live? You know, Ukraine is a massive country. In Kharkiv, it might not be common because there are more like Soviet-style buildings there, in Zaporizhia as well. It might not be common in Dnipro because it's more new builds. This is very common in Kyiv. It's very common in Ternopil. It's very common in Lviv. It's very common in Ivano-Frankivsk. It's very common in Chernivtsi. Do I have to keep going? Anyways, Iceland will transfer an additional 667,000 to the Ukrainian euros to the Ukrainian Energy Support Fund. This is the country's second such transfer, the Ministry of Energy of Ukraine reported. Over the past few weeks, Australia, the United Kingdom, Austria, Sweden, and Denmark have also contributed funds or declared their intentions to transfer to the fund. The total amount of aid is over 494 million euros. Also, here is a thought. Imagine so someone says, this is not a common window for Ukraine. What if I fucking have a house and I built it the way that I want it to? What is the aim of this question? To prove that I'm not in Ukraine? You can go to my page and you'll find out otherwise. So this question in both cases is useless and is just a provocation. So unless you want to be thrown out of here by my moderators, maybe filter the stupid stuff that you're writing. Anyways, Participants of the Summit on Peace for Ukraine, which will be held on June 15th to 16th in Switzerland, intend to agree on concrete steps for future negotiations with the participation of Russia. Bloomberg with reference to the draft document. We therefore agreed to undertake concrete steps which can serve as confidence-building measures in the above-mentioned areas with further engagement on the representatives of the Russian Federation. The document, which is subject to change in negotiations, says, no, Kat, don't do it yet. In addition, the document emphasizes the need for all parties to the conflict to participate in negotiations in order to end the war. Yulia, maybe trying to get you to show out of the window to try and geolocate you. Yeah, but there is nothing super, as in if I show, first of all, I would never do that. Second of all, if I were to show stuff outside of my window, it's not necessarily something that you can really recognize as Kyiv. It's just buildings. So it wouldn't really do anyone any justice or do anyone any favors. Windows on the roof, hearsay, witchcraft, black magic. I agree, Matthew. The only people spreading propaganda are the Western countries who are the king of propaganda. They're the world's biggest liar, and no matter what they do, they can never be able to defeat Russia. Oh, baby, you came to the wrong page. Hello, welcome. Oh, there is a little cheeky little bit of a symposium of Russian trolls on my YouTube. So if anyone is interested, there are quite a few toys to play with. Anyways, NATO is developing numerous land corridors in Europe for US troops and armored vehicles in case of a major ground war with Russia. These corridors would allow US troops to quickly reach the eastern border. The Telegraph writes that there are 5 main corridors from the Netherlands, Italy, Greece, Turkey, and Norway. They're also being developed through ports in the Balkans, as well as through Norway, Sweden, and Finland. These routes should be logistically prepared, taking into account Ukraine's experience with Russian large-scale missile attacks. An important nuance is that in these corridors, the troops will not be restricted by local rules, laws, or duties, so they will be able to freely transport cargo. Very fearful of windows. Russians have always been fearful of windows. Are we expecting company? Well, no, company just arrived, all the Russian trolls. Russian invaders have destroyed nearly 1,000 buildings protected by Geneva Convention in Ukraine, the New York Times writes. Overall, 106 hospitals, 109 churches, and 708 educational institutions were destroyed during the full-scale invasion. In May, Russians shelled Kharkiv 76 times, which is 3 times more than in April. Also, May, think about it, it's a month, right? A month is 30 to 31 days. May is 31, and this is 76 times. So that's multiple shelling attacks each day. The occupiers used bombs and missiles, as well as Shahed and Lancet drones. The air raid in the city lasted a total of 474 hours and 55 minutes in that period. Almost every Russian attack was accompanied by destruction, injuries, or death. And if that wasn't enough to call what Russia is doing to Ukraine a genocide and trying to level Kharkiv and turn it into Mariupol, these horrific photos show Roman Horylik after 2 years in Russian captivity. This will look to you potentially like the images from the Holocaust, but they're not. They're images of a man who came back after 2 years of Russian captivity. Literally, this to me looks like the Holocaust and Holodomor. I cannot believe, I understand the UN is useless. I understand that ICRC are useless. They come to Ukrainian POW camps where we hold Russians and make sure that we give them enough food and make sure that we give them the right portions and that they include meat and the right amount of calories and the right amount of things, right? They make sure that we give them books. They make sure that that they have TV time and that they can call their relatives. Russia literally said, we are not going to let you into the POW camps. And the UN was like, okay. They're not even trying. And this is what happens to Ukrainian prisoners of war in these freaking camps. This man was given enough food to literally stay alive for 2 years. For 2 years. And neither the UN nor the Red Cross has access to the Russian POW camps, and nor are they trying to gain that access. Russia said no, and they were like, what? We don't have access. Sorry. How is this allowed? How is this allowed? Also, oh my gosh, thank you. This is beautiful. Sorry, this is like totally... Thank you. I can't believe that this is reality. Roman is a senior checkpoint supervisor at Chernobyl nuclear power plant. He's not military. He's a senior checkpoint supervisor at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. The Russians took him captive at the beginning of the full-scale invasion. And in March 2022, brought him through Belarus to Russia. On May 31st, he was returned home along with 74 other prisoners of Russia in this condition. He's not the only one that came back like this. There are numerous pictures of other men and women that look like that. And now Spanish Senate calls for recognition of Holodomor as the genocide of the Ukrainian people. And I hope that they do recognize it as a genocide of the Ukrainian people, but I also hope that after this war is over, it's going to be recognized as a genocide of the Ukrainian people, because it is. Because it is. Okay, this is what I have for you for today. And I also think that I need a break. I will be back tomorrow and we will obviously talk about more news. Thank you for listening. There are a couple more updates, but I honestly don't think I can do it today. I genuinely feel like I need to stare at a wall for a second. It's been, quite a difficult 48 hours with the fact that there was no electricity and it was just a lot. And I am generally on edge, and this is just, adding to it. Thank you, Len. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye. And if you want something that'll lift your mood, I posted a cute video of Cinny. Bye. On TikTok.